of green. That's what you're used to seeing. And then we've got white. That's snow flying through Pennsylvania. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a bit. And even some freezing rain in parts of southeast Ohio tonight. But again, if you have problems seeing color, you can always go to abc11.com/weather. Taking a live look on our Pendo sky cam tonight, looking into downtown Raleigh. 45 degrees, mainly clear skies. A gorgeous night to be outside in downtown Raleigh. We're not seeing the bitter cold temps that we saw the past couple of days, and it is a nice evening for any activities. We look to the satellite and radar composite. We have a few clouds in southern portions of North Carolina and northern South Carolina, but that's it. We're not seeing any rainfall out there. We zoom it out and it's a different story. Big rains going on in the parishes of Louisiana. This is a significant cold front we'll talk about a little bit later in our old school weather. Not only is it causing snow through central Pennsylvania, upstate New York, pretty much all of New England is under some sort of winter weather advisory or winter storm warning with this system as it pulls through. This dragging cold front right here, though, that's what's going to drop through tomorrow. We get a little push of warmer air, and then all of a sudden Mother Nature goes, no, it's going to get cold again. Now tonight, it's mild. Last night we saw those overnight lows in the 20s and teens. Tonight will be 20 degrees warmer in spots as we hit 39 for our overnight low in Raleigh. Clear skies on a southwest wind. And those winds are going to stay gusty all night long. We could see gusts up to around 20 miles an hour all the way into the day tomorrow. As a matter of fact, tomorrow will stay windy. Winds by lunchtime will swing more out of the north and west, and that will push in that colder air. We'll also see gusts going from the 20s to 30 miles an hour. So a very windy day as we head through your Thursday. 52 degrees, that's a midday high. It's going to be one of those days where you head to work and it's around 40 degrees or so. When you head home, it will be in the 30s. So it'll be colder going home than it will going to work tomorrow. Even though there'll be sunshine, it is about to get even colder as we head into tomorrow night. Look at your temperatures again. Remember, these are midday highs. By tomorrow afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock, that cold air is pushing in, and those numbers will change. But 51 the high in Durham and Carrboro, 54 Holly Springs, 53 Siler City. Slide south, 57 Lillington, almost 60 in Fayetteville tomorrow in Lumberton, 57 in Pinehurst, 55 in Sanford, 57 in Goldsboro. You'll stay in the 40s for highs from Roxborough to Henderson to South Hill and Roanoke Rapids. That entire northern tier only sees 40s for highs tomorrow. 51 Wake Forest, Lewisburg, and 54 out your door in Rocky Mount. 7-day forecast powered by AccuWeather. 52 that midday high, and then those falling temperatures. Friday will start in the 20s, will only end at 41. Most of Friday is actually going to be in the 30s, but that's the coldest day of the next 7. By Saturday, we warm it up, 48. Sunday, a sunny start. Sunday's the day if you want to get outside this weekend and play golf, and I've had all these golfers call me and say, can I get out this weekend? Saturday's going to be dry. It's just going to be cold. Sunday, we're at 59, almost 60 degrees, and that's kind of the hinge day between the cold air and the warm air. Now, with the cold air, we get clear skies. Sunday, we get a little bit of both. And then Monday, the clouds roll in and we will see rain. So we're going into the 60s, but it is a wet 60s as we head into next week. After the break, we will be back. We're going to talk old school weather. We are breaking down everything, all the fronts, the highs, the lows, and we're going to talk to meteorologist Robert Johnson talking about winter weather as well with our friends at AccuWeather. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back on this Wednesday night. We are talking old school weather. I like to hear the bass. If you're new to the show, this is when we break down the weather like they used to. We're going to talk fronts, we're going to talk highs, we're going to talk lows. If you're a weather geek, this is the segment for you. First, we're going to talk tropics, and we're going to recap the tropical season. Where are we? You can see it started on May 1st. It officially ends on December 1st, so we are now out of the tropical season, and that is good news. And it was quite a year. Let's take a look at the recap. First of all, whenever we zoom in on the Caribbean and we look at what comes from the National Hurricane Center, the NHC, when they don't have anything to show us, they'll put this on all of their maps. Tropical cyclone activity not expected during the next 7 days, and that's good news. It's kind of their slow season, and so they make sure to put that out on their website until they start issuing tropical forecasts again sometime in the spring. If we look at NOAA's prediction, and I want to show this because I think they did a very good job this year. Some years they haven't been as accurate, but this year NOAA predicted 17 to 25 storms. Our actual number was 18, and our average number is 14. So they said it was going to be above average. That's where we were. Hurricanes, they predicted 8 to 13. Our average is 7. They predicted above average, and sure enough, we hit 11. That was right within their range. And then we averaged 3 major hurricanes a year, 3, 4, or 5 category. They predicted 4 to 7. The actual was 5. So they also saw that number within the range. So a good forecast from them as we take a look at their outlook that happened this year. As far as the names for all those storms, we still had 3 left on the list. We didn't make it to this year. Some of these names will be retired. This whole list comes around every 7 years or so, and they will take names off the list that if storms were really bad, and then they'll put a new name that matches that letter. That's why some of the names are becoming a little more modern. So the 3 names that didn't make it on the list or didn't make name storms this year, Tony, Valerie, and William. But let's take a look at every path of all the storms. Beryl was the longest path. It actually formed somewhere just off the coast of Africa, came clear across the Atlantic, through the Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico, and then it died out somewhere up in Erie. So that was the longest path, although right after it, Chris actually had a pretty long path too, that green line there. If we take a look at all of these storms, this is the one that brought us such problems. This is Helene, the red line there, and you can see it tracked right up through Florida and into our western mountains. It just caused all kinds of nastiness. We'll put the rest of them on. You'll notice as we got into the H, I, J, K numbers, even G, pretty active out here in the central and eastern Atlantic. And then as we wrapped up the season, most of the last storms that hit were down to the south and really worked their way into Central America. We saw Sarah and Raphael before we finally closed out the season, but a very active season. And good news is that season is over. All right, let's talk about winter season because that's what's happening now. We've got a pretty significant area of low pressure up here to the north. This double barrel cold front kind of working off it. As this works into central Pennsylvania, western parts of New York, it's really triggering some heavy snowfall. As this cold front drops through us, unfortunately, there's just not a lot of moisture in this sector, so we're not going to see much in the way of rainfall or snowfall out of it as it drops through. But as it works in, it is going to bring some significantly colder air on the backside. High pressure dominates the weather as we look out into the Rocky Mountains. Sunshine, great skiing weather out there. A little bit of a stationary front that runs all the way up the spine of the Canadian Rockies. East of it, in this cold air, as it runs into this warm air, it is triggering some snow showers, parts of Alberta into Saskatchewan, and then also over into Montana. But really, that's about it as far as the weather goes. Winter weather goes out west, and it's not causing any big warnings. Different story when we go into the Midwest. Look at all of these places. So here's Aberdeen, South Dakota. There's Minneapolis. So this shows you kind of Minnesota, the Dakotas, and we start to see that brown showing up on the map. That is wind advisories, and those wind advisories are all through parts of Minnesota, western Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. And then we start to see the pink show up. This is a winter storm warning. Extends up the western side of Michigan. As a matter of fact, they're just renewing it. That's why it flashed there. And then into the UP, the upper peninsula of Michigan, some of the northern counties in Wisconsin. Could see significant snowfall. Right now, Lake Michigan isn't frozen, so all that cold air works across Lake Michigan. It grabs hold of that moisture, and it drops it off in the form of lake effect snows. And lake effect snows are just wreaking havoc among the Great Lakes. In our area, we've got wind advisories along the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. This is a wind warning for some of our highest elevations here. If we go into central Pennsylvania, here's Punxsutawney, here's Pittsburgh, and you'll notice Cambria County, that's where Johnstown is, Clearfield, Somerset, the whole line of mountains there under a winter storm warning. They could see 6 or more inches of snow in that area, and then a wind advisory for the eastern part of the state. And then as we go into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, look at all the winter storm warnings, and the blue areas are winter weather advisories. And it's all because of this over here is all because of the lake effect snows, the unfrozen waters of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, just putting down tons of snowfall in that area. And it's going to be snowing for a while up there. To round out our old school weather, we're going to head into the Magic 8 Ball for tomorrow. I thought this was kind of old school to take out the Magic 8 Ball, give it a shake and see what it says. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, mostly sunny and 40 degrees. So we're going to start off warm as we head through the day tomorrow. By 1 o'clock, that front drops through. No moisture, so we won't see any rain out of it, but we do see mostly cloudy skies. We'll hit about 50 for a midday high. And then as we go towards 6 o'clock tomorrow night, the skies will clear. And it's going to be colder tomorrow evening than it is tomorrow morning as those numbers fall through the 30s. Feeling like winter around here. So let's talk more about winter. And for that, we go to meteorologist Robert Johnson. He's talking to our friends at AccuWeather.
It's the first week of December, and we're getting a taste of some chilly holiday temperatures. Our friends at AccuWeather are here with a closer look at why December is such a significant month in the world of weather. December is finally here after a hot and very warm fall. Is it officially winter yet? It depends who you ask. AccuWeather lead long-range expert Paul Postolic joins us from the AccuWeather Global Weather Center. Paul, thanks for joining us. What's the difference between meteorological winter and astronomical winter?
Well, starting with astronomical winter, generally that's the official date that's set as far as the winter season goes. But the thing about astronomical winter is that it varies from year to year, because it could be on the 20th, it could be on the 21st, it could be on the 22nd. This year, it starts on the 21st, and it makes it difficult when you're trying to compare from season to season, year to year. So meteorologists and also climatologists find it a lot easier that we do it by a 3-month pattern, where you start officially winter on December 1st and then you end it at February, because we can go year to year much easier comparing the seasons. And you can see meteorological December through February, but the dates, December 20th to March 20th, can change from time to time, from year to year. And so that makes it a lot harder to do. So basically, it's just much easier doing it the meteorological way.
A better way to compare. And how does the winter solstice on December 21st impact us here in the Carolinas?
Well, the one thing about the solstice is it affects actually everyone in the lower 48. However, the difference is the time of daylight hours that we have. It's generally the lowest amount of daylight hours we have during the course of the year. And what we see is probably here in the Raleigh area just under 10 hours of daylight. So what does that mean as far as maybe the weather being affected by that? Well, the thing is that the nights are longer. Okay, so it has time for the temperatures to continue to drop a longer time period. The ground actually gets colder because of those longer nights. And at the same time, we have a hard time recovering during the day because we have less daylight. Plus, the sun is angled more when we look at it at the southern hemisphere. The tropical Capricorn is where the center, where the sunlight is aimed at. And so we miss those daylight hours to get recovery time as far as warming during the daylight hours. And another thing too is a lot of times if we don't have a dry air mass, we can get fog conditions because of the longer nights, and then it's longer for that to burn off. And so that can have an impact on your temperatures as well.
And speaking of temperatures, Paul, you lead AccuWeather's team of long-range forecasters. What temperature trends are you expecting in the Carolinas this month?
Well, we know we're in a cold spot right now. In fact, when we look at the temperatures here, we got polar air coming in. This air originated on the other side of the pole. We had 2 blocking highs, one over Alaska and one over Greenland, forcing this cold air all the way down through the northern plains and all the way here into the southeast. Very unusual to see it this strong. Places in northern Florida below freezing, and here in the Carolinas we've seen temperatures in the teens. And it looks like that this trend will continue at least for the rest of this week. But as we go into next week, we got a difference coming up here. In fact, temperatures are going to start to warm up a little bit as the flow changes out of the south, out of the Gulf of Mexico. And so with storms passing to the west, we should see temperatures, high temperatures in the 60s for a couple days next week, getting above the average. And even into the following week, after a brief cool down behind a cold front, we could see temperatures staying mild as Pacific air comes in across the country. So we're replacing polar air with Pacific air. So right up toward about Christmas time, we should be on the mild side, but there could be a change coming later on in the period. Temperature-wise, though, for the month, yes, we're going to be in a hole, but I think we will recover as we start to see some milder area in. But still, for the overall for the month, we probably end up being below average.
We know it's early, but a lot of people are wondering, do you think there's a good chance that parts of North Carolina could see a white Christmas or at least decent snow for skiing and snowboarding later this winter?
Well, I could say it's too bad Christmas is not now, because we had that, good snow a couple days ago just north of Charlotte, south of Winston-Salem, and the snow that fell is probably going to be gone, in the next couple of days. In fact, the mountains as well, with this warm up coming over the next couple of weeks, is going to lose a lot of their snow. Unfortunately, I think the ski areas will hurt because of this factor. What will end up happening, you get melting and then refreezing at night, and conditions won't be that great at the ski slopes over the next couple of weeks. But like I said just a little while ago, there is a change in the pattern that we are seeing sometime after the 20th or 22nd of the month that could come in, get a little stormy. And if we can get a cold front to come through, up slow flow, we could see the snow being replenished in the western part of the state, in the mountains and the foothills possibly. Unfortunately, the Piedmont and the coastal plain, not looking too good at this point, Rob.
Thank you, Paul. I'm sure we'll be checking back in later in the season. Paul Postolic from AccuWeather. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. So there you go. And statistically speaking, we do not see many white Christmases around here. I know. But you can always go to the mountains to have a better shot. Coming up, we are going to answer viewer mail. We got a great question this week that has to deal with the cold weather. We'll talk about that next. It's time for viewer mail. Love to hear from our viewers out there. And you can always send us viewer mail. Just go to abc11.com/share. That's the easiest way to ask your question. So let's show you what we've got on the old question board tonight. This one coming to us, weather 3. Can I get weather 3 in there? We've got directors in there tonight, and if we can get to weather 3, the actual viewer mail has to do with the cold air that we have been seeing, and why. What the heck is the polar vortex? Benita in Hope Mills emailed me and said, what the heck is the polar vortex? She heard that term being used with the cold air we've seen. Well, let's break it down for you, because you hear this every winter, but you might not know exactly what it is. So there's the United States. We'll use the northern half of the globe. We tilt it towards you, and you can see up here, this is the polar vortex. It's a large area of cold air that's aloft in the upper part of the atmosphere, and it typically spins above the North Pole, and it just rotates around like that. So that's the polar vortex. It's a vortex of cold air. The pink area right here, this is a strong jet stream. That's where pressure differences will keep the jet stream. It's called the jet stream because it's a river of air that flows up where airplanes are. So it's a river of air, river or stream, and it's up where airplanes fly, jet stream. And this river of air kind of separates the really cold air from the really warm air off to the south, the polar jet. And it keeps that cold air trapped to the north, but sometimes it gets weak. And when it does, it'll allow a piece of that air to break off and slide to the south. And that's what dives down into us and gives us very cold air. The weak jet stream, as it weakens, becomes, for lack of a better term, wobblier, and it allows this cold air to plunge southward. This cold air actually started up here in Siberia. That's where the coldest air is in the northern hemisphere. That cold air from Siberia comes over the top through Canada, and it doesn't hit the mountains here, so it doesn't have anything to really break it up. And that cold air slides south, and that's what pushes in and gives us these pushes of cold air. Polar vortex, a vortex of very cold air up around the North Pole. So we saw, look, these are today's lows. We saw the first batch of this cold air press in last night into today. It was 18 this morning in Roxborough, 17 in Burlington. RDU's been running as the warm spot. Everybody else was in the teens and low 20s. That was today. Now, we saw that first kind of push of air move in. The warm air pushes up from the south and says, I'm not going anywhere. And that's why we warmed up today. And this is what it looks like tomorrow. Our time's on the title. This is lunchtime tomorrow. We're in the 50s. Watch what happens when we factor the wind in, though. By tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, by about this time tomorrow night, we're seeing wind chills of 17 in Roxborough and Oxford, 20 in Durham, 21 in Raleigh. You could even be in the 20s for wind chills down in the Sandhills. And then that polar vortex shoves south, and it gets even colder around here. You'll notice those feels like temperatures by Friday morning, 6 o'clock, 11 Roxborough, 17 Raleigh, 17 Roanoke Rapids, 14 in Siler City. And that cold air just surges in for Friday. The good news is these little pieces of air break off. They're not very big. It will get shoved out of here, and the warm air will win out. And we will see some warmer temperatures as we head into the weekend. All right, on to some new video coming in tonight. We want to show this to you. From across the Midwest and the Northeast is a quick hitting and really potent winter storm is just creating dangerous travel conditions. Check it out as it delivers these intense bursts of snow and strong winds. Winter storm warnings were issued for parts of Michigan's UP. We showed that to you earlier. This is what it looks like on the ground. And heavy lake effect snow continues along with gusty winds in that area. The National Weather Service warning people there to brace for up to a foot of snow in spots. This footage taken by ID Photography shows conditions in Hancock. It's located on Lake Superior in northwestern Michigan. I'm cold just looking at that. Whew. Lots of snow there. How about this? A snow squall passing over western Wisconsin. This happened this afternoon. Brought intense wintry weather to the city of La Crosse. National Weather Service up there said it had a quick but strong snow shower just hammer their office. A wind advisory also in effect for portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. We showed that to you, that big brown area we showed in our old school weather. That has to do with those bursts of snow pushing through, and snow creating difficult driving conditions in parts of New England as several inches fell in Massachusetts on Wednesday. Footage from X-user Soar Weather shows ongoing snowfall and really a thin coat of snow in East Longmeadow. That's in the western part of Massachusetts. That's where our producer Alicia is actually from, Western Mass. And a winter weather advisory in effect for that state with up to 6 inches of snow expected to fall through tomorrow morning. You know, at one point yesterday, parts of Massachusetts and New York were the same temperature as us down here. Here's the difference. They're in winter, they stay in winter. We see those 60s returning as we go into next week. And we'll talk more about that warm up, and when we come back, we'll also give you that coffee forecast. If you're headed out, you're going to need 2 tomorrow because it's going to get colder, and maybe 3 or 4 on Friday. We'll talk about that and wrap things up. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's get to our viewer photo tonight. I love this one. Courtney Phillips used to send photos to us all the time when I was on the morning show. She lives down at Seven Lakes, and this is what Courtney woke up to this week. She sent us a picture on X of her snow that was outside her house. So rare for Moore County and the Sand Hills to see that snow, and for us to not get much up here. If you have a picture, we would love to see it. Just go to abc11.com/share. That's where you would upload your picture. That's also how you would ask me the viewer question if you have one. As far as every week, we like to end the show with your coffee forecast. If you are headed out tomorrow for a cup of coffee, really not a bad morning. Temperatures will be in the 40s. I know I have an eye doctor appointment at like 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I'll be in the 40s with a light jacket on. By 10 o'clock, I'll be having a second or third cup of coffee as we get up near 50 degrees. Just know that on Friday, these temperatures will be in the teens and 20s instead of 40s, and that's the morning you're going to want hot chocolate and all the big coats, big hats, big gloves, is that cold air works in for your Friday. Tonight, though, we are clear, we are dry, and not much to show you out there. We will stay dry all the way into the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you watching here every week, whether it's on abc11.com or on the YouTube channel. We are glad you are here. Love talking weather with you. We'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe out there.